My name is Nate Knapper, founder and CEO of the Joseph Project. This is a nonprofit. It's designed to connect survivors of human trafficking with free legal services. All right, and you may be wondering, well, what in the world does that have to do with internet safety? And the answer is actually quite a lot. It's quite a lot. So in addition to my nonprofit responsibilities, I also serve as a federal law enforcement officer. I'm a special agent of the FBI. And in that capacity, I have investigated violations of the federal human trafficking laws. Human trafficking, the commercial exploitation of another person for sex or labor services through force, fraud, or coercion. Now, human trafficking is a problem that's occurring in the cities and towns where you and I live, right here in the state of Michigan. And if that's shocking to you, I want you to know that that's a reality. But what might surprise you even more is the extent to which those cases are originating and perpetuating themselves through the internet. All right? Exploiters are spotting, assessing, developing, recruiting, and exploiting people online. The internet is the primary mechanism by which exploiters recruit people for human trafficking today. And I want you to hear that. And so, because that's the case, the Joseph Project engages in internet safety workshops, and we host digital citizenship events like tonight. And we're so grateful that you've come. And the idea is to help you and your students, the young people under your care, to be safer and more productive users of the online space, all right? There's an interesting thing that happens when you go to the FBI Academy down in Quantico, Virginia. Quantico, do we remember that show? We're still trying to forget, right? Mary, am I right? Yes, so are we. It was awful, but nonetheless, it is a real place, and that's where you go. Those khaki pants, right? I mean, geez. But Quantico is a place where you train to become an FBI special agent, okay? And along the way, what they do is they teach you in what they call defensive tactics, right? So you spend a significant amount of time in the gym, and what they do is they teach you various hand-to-hand combat moves, and you do a bit of grappling, and you do some ground fighting, and you're not Conor McGregor when you walk out of there, but you'll do okay, right? So they teach you it's like MMA for dummies, all right? So that's what they do. And it's interesting because one of the things that I learned along the way in defensive tactics, they call it DTU, the Defensive Tactics Unit. One of the great lessons that I took away from that experience actually had nothing at all to do with my physical capabilities or skills, right? Rather, it had everything to do with my mindset, okay? Here's what I mean. When you're an agent, they give you a firearm. Everybody's issued a Glock, okay? DTU is very keen to help you understand the severity and the gravity of the reality that you're carrying a firearm. And here's why. Because if you ever find yourself in a situation where you could be presented with a confrontation, right, you can be sure that your adversary is in that confrontation for one reason, to win the fight, right? And DTU will tell you that whenever you're in a confrontation, you are automatically in a gunfight, right? Why is that? Because as an agent, you're carrying a gun, right? You're the one with the weapon. And part of winning the fight for your adversary might involve them attempting to disarm you of your own weapon and turn it against you, right? And then it's lights out, it's game over, no more. And so DTU wants you to understand this is serious, all right? And they want you to get in the proper frame of mind every bit as much as they want you to have the physical capabilities to win the fight. Does that make sense? All right. With that understanding, in many ways, that's the conversation that I want to have with you tonight about internet safety. I view my responsibility very simply. I need to get you in a different way of thinking about the web. I want you to adopt a mindset that recognizes the seriousness, the freedoms, the powers, the capabilities, but also the responsibilities that you have when you go online, because it's very serious. And so that's what we'll engage in for the next couple of minutes. And I think that starts with getting everybody on the same page, right? So that we know what we're talking about. So when we say digital citizenship, what does that mean? What are we talking about? It's the title of the presentation. What in the world does that mean? It's super simple. If you use the internet, you're a digital citizen, all right? So do you have a cell phone? Do you have a laptop? Do you have a tablet? Do you have smart lights or some kind of smart appliances in your home? Do you have a wristwatch that tells time but also does a million other things? You have a smartwatch, an Apple Watch. If you connect in any of those ways, you're automatically a digital citizen. So the concept is simple. It stands for the proposition that our lives are no longer confined to the physical spaces that we navigate every single day. Rather, we are all members of an online world, and it's ubiquitous. It's all around us. We're constantly connected to it, some of us all the time, because most of us are carrying cell phones, okay? So I know this about you. I don't have to ask you to raise your hands, or we don't have to do a poll. I know already that I'm speaking to a room of digital citizens, because I know for a fact that all of you use the web. It's unavoidable in today's world, right? So, because that's the reality, I think that there are a couple of important points that we should make about this online world and about your participation in it, okay? And the first point to make, we've alluded to it already. As a digital citizen, you have freedoms and you also have responsibilities when you go online. Easy, right? You have freedoms and you have responsibilities when you go online. It's just like being a citizen of a country. Here's what I mean. Think about the freedom and the capability and the power that you have when you go online. Do you want to see an image of anything? Do you want to see the Grand Canyon, the Sistine Chapel, a humpback whale? You can search for anything you want. Type it in, press search, and Google will bring every image up, probably more than you ever wanted to see, right? That's a given for us. You understand what I'm talking about, but I want you to know that never before in the history of the world, before our time, has that been possible. That is a very unique and powerful capability that you have to view literally anything that you want. Google will show it to you. Take another example. Do you want to buy something? Do you want to have an item? Well, Amazon makes it so simple now. They call it one-click shopping, right? And you literally don't even have to click the mouse. There's a button, and you can touch the button on your screen, and within, at most, 2 days, sometimes now even the same day, the item will show up right at your doorstep. It's like magic, right? That's an unbelievable amount of power. Any Prime members in the room? Yeah, I love it too. I know. Amazon Prime, beautiful, beautiful thing. But that's an unbelievable amount of power is the point. Your capability to bring things to your doorstep, to view whatever you want, to research, to search, to communicate. It's all very unique to our time, and there's a great degree of power with it. But it's important to also recognize that with great power comes great responsibility. If you're a student in the room, you're hearing Uncle Ben talking to Peter Parker, right? With great power comes great responsibility. That's this, right? You have to recognize that you have responsibilities to yourself, and if you're a parent or a guardian or a teacher perhaps, you have a responsibility to the people under your care to safeguard them in the appropriate ways. Why? Why is that the case? It's the case because you are not the only digital citizen out there. There are other digital citizens that navigate this online world with you. Some of them do not have your best interests in mind. As in the real world, There are places that you would not go. If your parents knew you went there, they'd be very disappointed in you, all right? There are sites that you have the capability, you have the power, if you want to visit them. Should you? Is it productive for you? In some cases, is it safe for you? No, it's not, all right? So we have to recognize that we have an unbelievable potential, unbelievable power right in the palm of our hands if you have a cell phone in particular. Recognize that capability, it's special. We encourage you to use it. We know that you have to in today's world, but it's also important to recognize that you have responsibilities to yourselves and the people you care about to take the appropriate steps to safeguard them. Why is that so important? Well, the next slide tells you why. And if you're a young person, if you're a student in the room, this is your slide, okay? Online actions have real-world consequences. Online actions have real-world consequences. In my law enforcement role, I remember one of the very earliest interviews that I ever did. I haven't had one like it before or since. And it involved a young woman, mid-20s by my estimation, and she was in a hospital room in Flint. And if I put her image on the screen for you tonight, you would swear that you were looking at the Clarkston High School beauty queen, right? The prom queen, whatever. But because of the heroin that she was doing, she was staring down the barrel of open heart surgery. And as I was speaking with her, I could tell that her breathing was very labored. She was having a very difficult time speaking. She was slurring her words. Very difficult interview. But what's true about that is that she was being trafficked, and her controller was grooming her and communicating with her and also advertising her using cell phones and websites. And so this is the type of thing that we're trying to avoid. Vulnerability leads to victimization, and cavalier online behavior is such a vulnerability. I have sat in the back of courtrooms where parents and their young students are reading victim impact statements to a judge. And there's a person over on the other side of the courtroom, and they're describing how that individual posed as someone else, extorted them for images and videos that they later deeply regretted sending, and their lives spiraled totally out of control. It happens, it's disturbing, and they're still rebuilding their lives today. Online actions have real-world consequences. Big message that I want you to hear tonight. I don't share those stories to scare you. I don't even share those stories to tell you not to use the internet. I know that you're going to, and I know that you have to. That's not a feasible message to give you. Rather, I share them with you to change your mind, to get you in the right mindset, to get you thinking a certain way when you and your young people use the cell phone and the internet. I want you to understand the gravity, the severity, the amount of power, but also the amount of responsibility that you have when you use those devices. All right, fair enough?